it is something. It's going to be something to watch. And I have a feeling it's going to provide a lot of entertainment to watch Beto O'Rourke, who has just, as we said on the last podcast, has been chosen as the guy for no apparent reason. Has just been chosen as the guy. And did you see the money he raised?
$6 million.
Raised $6 million his first day of his campaign. He's got celebrity endorsements. It really does remind me of the Obama thing. You know, when Obama just started getting like Beyonce and Oprah and all these people come out and endorse him, and it's kind of like whatever. That's what Beto O'Rourke's got. I personally don't think he has the skills that Obama had. Like, I actually do think, you know, when the media was swooning over Obama and they were like, this guy is like an incredible orator and he's incredibly charismatic and charming and all that, I never for one second was like, I don't see what they're talking about. I was like, oh yeah, obviously, that's who this guy is. Don't see it in Beto O'Rourke at all. But he's raising a lot of money. He's out there. But now he's not dealing with the 2008 left. He's dealing with the 2020 left, which is obsessed with intersectionality, obsessed with the idea of white privilege and all these other things. And it's just going to be interesting for how he's going to have to somehow make this argument. That I saw him the other day where he was someone was like asked him at a campaign event if he would guarantee that he's going to pick a woman vice president. So we have the first woman vice president ever if he's elected. And he was like, you know, I think it's a little premature to decide who my vice president's going to be, but I hear you. I think that's a great idea. I would prefer that it be a woman, bro. And it's like, it's just so obvious. Like the next step is just so obvious. It's just like, oh, well, why don't you just not run for president? I mean, if it's so important to have a woman or a person of color on the ticket, like why would it be behind you? So it was like, who are you? You lost a Senate race. Like, who cares? Like, why is it you? And of course, anyway, the whole thing, it's just, I have a feeling it's going to be very entertaining to watch. And I think for, you know, it really is, I believe that Donald Trump is now and has always been a very vulnerable presidential candidate. It's not like Donald Trump, you know, I'm sure he would tell you that he's like, you know, he's so terrific. And, you know, the crowd sizes were the biggest and his approval numbers are so great and he's going to dominate his reelection. But the truth is, Donald Trump was an incredibly formidable opponent in the Republican primary in 2016. Once you got out of that into a general election, he was very beatable, very beatable. I mean, everything pretty much bears this out. This is the thing. It's like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton weirdly both gave each other cover because they were so terrible. They were, and you can look at the polling on this, they were the most hated candidates, number 1 and number 2, and they would compete with each other over who was the most hated. Like it would go up and down. Since they've been taking polls, there were not 2 presidential candidates who were more disliked than those 2. Okay. Donald Trump was up against a candidate who was universally hated, who had incredibly high, like unlikability, you know, like disliked numbers, what was the least charismatic human being maybe on the planet. She was under criminal investigation by the FBI. She fainted in public. She was having coughing fits at every speech that she gave. I mean, she was a very, very weak candidate. And by the way, a couple weeks before the election, the FBI announced it was reopening the investigation against her. There was so much going against Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump limped into the White House. I mean, he barely beat her. He lost the popular vote to her, and he managed to, by very small margins, win every single swing state that he needed. Now, it was incredible that he got all of them. But if you actually look at the margins, they were really like razor thin. One of them goes the other way, and Hillary Clinton is the president of the United States. Now, of course, you can also say the same thing is true the opposite way, that, you know, Donald Trump was this kind of gaffe machine who was intensely hated by huge parts of the population, who a tape of him comes out saying grab women by the pussy and all this other stuff on him, and Hillary Clinton still couldn't beat him. Like, but it was kind of both of them were in this position. But since then, Donald Trump has actually lost a lot of the support of some of his like most adamant supporters, like people like Ann Coulter, that whole kind of wing of the build the wall people. Well, Donald Trump's been in there. There's no wall built. A lot of them are pretty frustrated with that. His approval numbers are not good. They are not good. They haven't been good his entire presidency. A lot of that's because the media is against him and all these other things. But Donald Trump doesn't really have a primary fight on his hands this time. He's still very popular amongst Republicans, but he's got to go right into a general election, and he's very vulnerable. But the problem is that the Democrats are like, they actually will probably blow this thing to him because they've just lost their freaking minds. They've lost their minds. To anybody, I have to think that to a whole lot of normal people watching, they're going to go, this is just insane. Things like the Green New Deal, things like this obsession with race and identity politics, things like this woman confronting Hillary Clinton, and then the leaders in the Democrats are like too scared to just be like, yeah, this is just like a crazy young person who doesn't know what they're talking about. All of this stuff, it is seen by people and it's internalized.